let's go like do a patch by patch breakdown and look at A Realm Reborn's launch. We'll start at the very beginning of going back to the launch of A Realm Reborn. Now, you would think that coming off of a game as bad or as frustrating as FF14 1.0, you would have a really hard time drumming up some enthusiasm and some hype around trying to rebuild the game. But Square Enix did this very effectively. And Realm Reborn's launch was, I think, one of the best in modern MMO history, where you just had a ton of people that were like, this is great, and definitively having a great time playing FF14.
Well, we talk a lot about sentiment on this show, and yeah, the sentiment for the game was probably its high water mark, was right about there.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that by rebooting the game, they did themselves a lot of favors. Because first of all, right out the gate, you're no longer being judged based solely on your product. They're going to be judging this game based on what it was and how it's improved. So honestly, it was kind of hard to miss the mark in my eyes. Plus, because of 1.0, you already had a lot of pre-established lore set up, so now you don't have to take quite as long creating and establishing all of that.
Yeah, but the thing is like a lot of times, if you have that lore hanging over your head, it is more of an anchor. It's more of a limitation.
That's why they destroyed everything. So then it wasn't really a limitation.
Well,
you get to design it from there.
I think you've got to hand it to Yoshi P as well as the lore staff for being able to craft a narrative as cogent as they did for A Realm Reborn, considering that there was almost no cogent narrative throughout the entirety of 1.0. I think, maybe the last two patches in 1.0 that introduced Dalamon falling and saw the completion of Nail's storyline. Those were really kind of the only halfway cogent plot points that were in the entire thing. The rest were a ton of plot threads or like original intention. Like honestly, what Tanaka had put out there for a fucking storyline was the saddest excuse that I've ever seen in an MMO, and they had a bit of a dumpster fire to work with. It was a large dumpster fire, but it was still a dumpster fire. And I think that all the credit needs to be given to Yoshi P and the lore team for being able to look at that and go, okay, we can still do something with this. We can still make something out of it. And they took characters that I think up until this point were largely forgettable. I think even many of the Saiyans were largely forgettable.
Oh, yeah.
And they fleshed them out into characters that you ended up giving a genuine shit about.
But I think Callow makes a really good point, too, that 1.0 was so bad that, like, by virtue of the game being functional, it was infinitely better come 2.0. Like yeah, that immediate comparison in your head, because everyone, like me, who sat down remembering trying to playing through 1.0 at launch, I sat down and said, oh, I can actually play the game.
Now, but I think that also kind of does a disservice to them at the same time, because they did far more than make a functional game.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely.
They made not only a functional game, but a narrative masterpiece. I would say, what they had strived to achieve in 2.0 was a narrative unlike I've ever seen attached to an MMO. And that, I think, if you're just saying like, well, all they needed to do is produce a functional game.
No.
They did that, and they did so much more.
Which I think compounded their success. Like,
Absolutely.
It's one thing to make a good game, and it's one thing to rescue a broken game, but doing them on top of each other, like, blew people's mind. Like, they were like, holy shit, look what they were able to fucking do.
Yeah, look at that turnaround. I mean, everyone kind of loves a from
redemption story.
Yeah, a redemption story. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, everyone does love a redemption story, and Square Enix had come out and said, "Look, we fucked up. We made a mistake. We want to try to fix it. And if we're going to do it, we're going to need some time." And I think that put a pin in a lot of people's sentiments. Like, literally, it just stopped it. It just the negative sentiment didn't continue, but the positive sentiment hadn't been earned yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And then when 2.0 came out, it's like they earned it and then some, because it was so fucking good.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, Duke Nukem Forever. That game, when it finally came out, no one had any expectations for it. It was such a mess. It was just you expected nothing. And that's pretty much what you got. It was functional, I guess. If Duke Nukem Forever had come out and then been great, it would have been what Final Fantasy 14 was. It would have been a similar idea.
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
No, I think Duke Nukem has kind of limited brand appeal. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Because look at how the new Doom came back and like really turned everyone's minds around on the Doom franchise.
well, but what I'm saying is that Duke Nukem was a little bit of a more he's a bit more of a cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to handle a character like that, but I'm not sure that doing what they did with Doom would have been applicable with Duke Nukem. You would actually really have had to make an attempt at real comedy, not just dumb.
Yeah, had they like reinvented him in some way or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Chodoon's pointing out maybe a better example. StarCraft Ghost, if that had been realized and been good.
If Titan had been
Oh, there you go.
good. If they had done Titan, like if they had decided, okay, this build of it sucks, we're gonna rebuild it. Maybe I still
Maybe that's the point. Maybe there is no real good comparison.
there really isn't, because here's the thing. Square Enix brought FF14 1.0 to market. People bought it. That's the
They
difference.
spent money on it.
That's the fucking difference, is that you had to earn people back after you fucked them out of their money. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's a hard sentiment to overcome. But Square Enix did it, and they did it in pretty impressive fashion, I gotta say.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
fair.
convincing people to put your dick into a box and there's a snake in there and it bit you. And then they're like, all right, you know what? We fixed it. We have a better box. Put your dick in there again. And
I do that.
people did. And they're like, wow, this is so much better.
Yeah, and then they bring you a box the second time around. That's the same box. It just says no snakes inside on top of it.
And you're so relieved that there's not a snake in that box.
Oh, we're relieved that there's not a snake in there.
Do you want there to be a snake in the box?
Have you ever had your dick bitten by a snake before?
Have you? Yeah.
It's pretty. It's not the worst experience, okay?
What's the worst experience then in your eyes? What's worse than getting your...
That I've had, or that in
no,
general?
Yeah, that you've had.
There was that one time.
Snake in the dick box is not the worst.
No, it came after that. It was actually the cactus in the ass. We don't want to get into that though.
You've lived a hell of a life. You've explored transgender sex clubs. You've had your.
I haven't.
Whoa!
I
He
wish
got
I could.
super defensive there.
I've never been in any of them.
No, I mean I want to. Don't get me wrong. I wish I could be part of that club, but no. I've never gotten the opportunity.
He doesn't wear that badge. He gets turned away at the door.
I've never looked
I
at
can't even find the door.
I've never looked it up longingly on Google Maps before.
Oh my god!
That
Now
I
I'm
have.
picturing my transgender sex club, and it's like outside. Juxta's just in the rain across the street watching as a bus goes by.
It splashes me. I have a stick and like poking the water as it goes by.
I think he's holding an umbrella.
The umbrella's upside down, so it's not even working. It's like
That was a fat joke, Totoro.
The funniest part of that is that there's probably an entire collection of dudes that do that. There's like 7 of them.
Dude, tranny chasers are fucked up. Dude, you don't even know. All right, so I met this guy on OkCupid.
Okay, all right.
30 minutes
We're
after
getting into
having met
we're
him.
getting into story time.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
30 minutes after having met him, he offered me $2,000 a week to come live with him on the grounds that I wear the clothes that he chooses for me and stay in shape.
And you turned it down.
Why are you still here?
Yeah.
Well, I would have had to go live in Oklahoma, and I'm relatively certain I was going to be turned into a woman suit.
Oklahoma, yeah. That's probably
Okay.
fair.
Yeah, first of all, I didn't know what the internet connection situation was like in Oklahoma. I,
gonna say,
wasn't on board for that.
At the very least, if you were still alive now, you'd be able to listen to Checkpoint.
Fair.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair, as I count my $100,000 a year that I didn't get because I'm dead.
As you're chained to the radiator in the basement.
Now, I'm going to tell you what the most offensive part of this story was, is like his name was something like XX Sephiroth on Facebook. And I'm like, I can't do it. No, I can't do it.
That was the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Awkward.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know, like, if that's your screen name for anything, that's also the kind of person that you are.
Yeah, that was tranny chasers are weird. That's all I really can say
Did
about
he
it.
ask you to do anything with feet?
With feet?
Yeah, because
no,
that would have made it super weird.
no, that wasn't his.
That's
thing.
where
What about-
Nero crosses the line.
what about-
foot stuff?
Feet, tails.
Yeah. What about ankle tails?
You know, we hadn't gotten that far into the conversation for ankle tails. He did let me know that anal was a must. So
Butt stunts.
yeah,
Well-
butt stunts are definitely a must.
I mean, obviously.
Well, no, a lot of guys only want your mouth.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty common actually. A lot of guys aren't into anal.
there's.
Huh.
I'm learning a lot
I'm actually
today.
surprised at that. Oh yeah, Omega Wet Wall brings up a good point.
What?
Armpit stuff.
You know, I've never met anyone who's into armpit stuff.
It is pretty. It's a pretty gross area. of
That's
the
a
body.
niche market.
I feel like that's kind of like boob fucking, but armpit fucking is like kind of like in the same general like texture area. You know?
Yeah,
What? An armpit is the same texture as boobs?
Well, not exactly the same, but I mean, not 1-to-1, but maybe like 75 to 1% ratio. You know?
Oh,
No.
he's thinking of his own. He's thinking
Oh,
of
how he feels it?
That's right. Yeah, of like if someone fucked his armpit, it might feel like a boob because there's just so much enormous fat there, right?
Well, I wasn't going there, but I guess that's still probably.
No, that's what you deserve for taking this conversation where you did.
To be fair, it was Wet Wall.
Guys, I can't believe that I'm asking this, but can we talk about Final Fantasy 14 some more?
yeah, I'm sorry for that derail, but that story popped in my head. I'm like, oh, that's got to be said on air.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. This was an appropriate forum for that.
Yeah, would you
Do you
like
have any more?
If you oh.
Why
One
don't
of these
you
days-
two go out in the other room
I'll tell you what, not
and
today.
have this conversation?
But somewhere in this 10 weeks, I will bust out my OkCupid account and we can go through some of my old messages.
Jesus.
You know what?
Kill me
Yes,
That
now.
may be its own show.
Every
all right?
day that we don't get an ERP fanfic, we're gonna have a Scalia OkCupid time.
God.
It's not happening
That's
either.
that's the throwdown. This is my glove. It's been thrown.
So
My girlfriend just texted me and said, oh, no, you're not. Sorry.
Ha! The
Sorry.
girlfriend hath spoken.
Come on.
anyway, so
On the topic, I believe we were talking about narrative stuff.
Narratives of FF14 2.0 versus 3.0, yes.
One of the things that I thought 2.0 missed out on, and I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people feel that the Scions are forgettable, is they didn't really play much of a role until near the end of the original 2.0 storyline. In fact, how many times was it like, we're going to do stuff, and it's like, all right, we killed the Primal. Thancred shows up. Oh, I just missed it.
Or Y'shtola's, I've been watching the whole time. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Juxta for the longest time. You hated all the Scions, Y'shtola and Yida specifically, until near the end of the story, and we actually got to see them in action, and you're like, all right, they're actually pretty fucking cool.
Now that they're doing stuff, it's not the worst thing
Yeah,
in the
but
world.
it didn't happen until the end, around the time that like Thancred got kidnapped by the Ascians.
yeah.
So like all this stuff prior to that, the Scions were there, but they weren't doing anything.
yeah, they were just sort of serving as like your dispatchers.
Now that's something that I thought that Heaven's War did well. Not with the Scions, obviously, because they were missing for the longest time.
But characters.
But our characters that we got introduced to right at the beginning, which in this case would have been Elfinau, but Ysael and Justinian, and even Emmerich to a certain extent.
I remember going through 2.0 and like my first time meeting like Ida and Papalymo and being like, oh, Ida's fun. But yeah, everyone that you meet is just objectively boring for the entirety like of that storyline. It very much felt like you were supposed to have played 1.0 and already known who they are, except everything that I hear from people who play 1.0 is that they were boring in there too.
Yeah, they didn't really have much to go on. So when did they start building their characters to the point where it was like, oh, now these characters are supposed to mean something to me?
I hate to say it, but for me, I didn't care till Heaven's Ward. And as mad as I was about them coming back, at least when they came back, they didn't just suck.
No, for me, it was definitely near the end of the 2.0 storyline when we're like, rescuing
After-
Thancred and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was, what's the name of the castrum that's actually near in the Silver Tier Lake Zone?
Not Meridianum, but the Praetorium where you go there.
No, that's still the same place.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, all right, you know the one that I'm talking about. Up there, there's a mission that takes place there when we actually get to see Yida and Y'shtola in action up there, and that's when I really started to be like, you know what? These guys are actually badasses. They're not just these set pieces that Square Enix introduced us to and then, set on the peripheral of our vision.
That's kind of true because until then, like the most you get to see is like Thancred or Ida and Papolino, helping you with like a level 15 mob.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
They
and-
just show up and talk.
Well, there was one scene with the Scions facing off against Gaius that happened in 1.0.
Oh, that was so good.
where they were actually pretty badass. That ends with what is it? It's the airship that you end up fighting as the second boss for Silvertier.
Oh.
In what's the fucking? I can't remember the name of the dungeon.
Keeper of the Lake.
Keeper of the Lake. Thank you. Yeah, the second boss for Keeper of the Lake. That's the thing that actually fires the cannon shot at you.
Oh.
And is that big explosion behind Gaius, right? So that actually was a very cool moment that the Scions were involved in, but probably the only cool moment from 1.0. Everything else was, just kind of them telling you what to do and where to go,
And how to live, how to dress.
Yeah, and then like you would go do it, like you would beat Ifrit, and then they would be there on the exit. And
Yeah,
they would be like-
exactly. Oh, I feel so bad that I didn't show up and help you.
Which is why.
Shut up, Thancred.
Which is why I think in later expansions, like later in Heaven's Word and stuff like that, like we actually have moments. We have the like Keeper of the Lake where we do the final fight with. What is that? We do that with Estinian, don't we?
not
Keeper of the Lake.
Not Keeper
Not
of the
Keeper
Lake.
of the Lake. No. What is the one that we
with
do with
Nidhogg.
Estinian?
The purple one?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Airy?
Yeah.
There it is. The
Thank
area.
you.
Yep.
Yeah, but again, like it's finally like 3.0 because they tried to write it off in 2.0 because most of the Scions are able to be tempered by a primal, right?
Right.
That's why they're not there for you. But at least in 3.0, they come back. They all kind of get their own uniform, as cosmetic as that is, and they at least like. They establish like what their character is and what they're going through at that time. At least you
Right.
get some development with
Well,
them.
I think maybe the reason that we missed out on a lot of that in 2.0, because we got a little bit later on, like remember the scene where we get to see Thancred using like the sweet ninja moves and stuff during the Leviathan arc, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like one of the reasons, like maybe they had this weird idea, like, well, if they're there, they should be in the battle helping you, But honestly, they don't need to be, right? Like we can suspend belief for a minute, battle stuff, then have them be in the cutscenes and just be like, yeah, they were there, quote unquote, helping us.
Let's go to our phone lines and talk to Alto Ryuki of Hyperion. What's going on, Alto?
Not much, man.
Thanks for calling
guys?
Limit Break Radio.
All right, no problem. Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about the 2.0 through 3.0 type storylines. I'm kind of disappointed with 3.0, really.
Oh, are you?
I think that you're gonna find that sentiment.
Yeah. Overall,
you're gonna be in good company there. Like there's definitely a lot of people who I think found the entirety of Heaven's Word, once all was said and done, to be
Yes.
overwhelming, especially in comparison to 2.0. I think anyone who played through the entirety of 2.0, like if you picked it up when Heaven's Word came or when A Realm Reborn came out, that in comparison one to the other. I mean, spoilers, I guess, for this entire discussion, but that A Realm Reborn felt way more substantial than Heaven's Word did. Heaven's Word didn't,
I'd like to point out that at launch, so just 3.0, that was all great.
Oh, yeah.
It was in the 0.1 through 0.5 patch that all the balls were dropped.
Yeah. No, I think I got to agree with that. Alto, what do you think?
I would agree too, because like through the 3.0 launch, it felt good until the Mughals happened. Then after that, when you got to put down an old man, that felt good too. Then it just kind of faded off.
I mean,
into the
it
distance.
definitely had its moments, but like when you look back and you kind of like when I was going through making the outline, I'm like remembering all the stuff that happened in each of the patches. I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah, but the problem is you're going, oh man, 2.x is way better.
Yeah, I felt that way too.
It was the pacing.
but- yeah,
honestly.
it was the pacing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because there was definitely some just dead points in the Heaven's Word line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the weird part is that I feel like they got to the point faster in Heaven's Word, but that there was less once they got to the point.
Yeah, like when I was going through 3.2 stuff, I sat there thinking like, again, upset, fresh and new. That I'm like, wait, this was all that happened in 3.2? What?
Yeah, because again, when you look back at 2.0 and you're like reading each of these patch titles, you like remember the progression of the story, and it's like the same story going forward. But then when you look at the 3.0 stuff, go off this way, do the Warriors of Darkness thing, do this thing back here in
The Warriors of Darkness just bother me. They still to this day they bother me because I don't see the point.
There wasn't a point.
Yeah.
There was so much potential for that storyline.
Maybe to write off Minfilia.
Well, that's what they ended up using it for, is
Yeah.
to get her out of the picture for good.
Right.
But like there was so much potential for the idea of the Warriors of Darkness and how interesting that could have been. And they kind of tried to tap into it. They kind of approached that idea of, well, they're not really evil. It's just, what is the truth in their world and what they've gone through and faced. And that's interesting, but not when you shoehorn it into one like set of like 8 missions.
Oh, also, Urianger is a traitor, but not really.
Oh man, the easiest call in history.
Right.
Yeah, I felt that they, on the 3.1 through what they currently have going, I felt like they branched too much off of the actual path they had laid lit. Like, when 2.0, it was, you already kind of figured how their cycle was going as of like 2.1 through 2.2. It's literally, here's a primal, go put it down, go to the next one, but at least they put some substance in between there. 3.0 happened. Oh, we're just going to go do fuck all and go all everywhere.
Well, and again, that's kind of the point, though, with the 2.x line, is the primals were built into the main story. So your MSQ was giving you a primal fight, and your, some of your raid content was the hard mode version of that primal fight.
Right.
So you're getting a lot out of your MSQ, whereas with 3.x, the most you get out of the MSQ is a dungeon.
Right. And the thing is that throughout the MSQ, we were never challenged on this in the same way that we were challenged with 2.0. Because you're right, like 2.0, they would throw primal fights at you, even if it was a normal or a hard mode primal fight, and it wasn't that big of a challenge. It was more substantial than what they've been giving us throughout Heavensward.
Well, yeah, because the one thing that did challenge us, they nerfed it into the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what it was. Is it was a overreaction to the steps of faith, and how it, poorly received that was by the community that made them sort of second guess some of the structure that they applied to Heavensward.
Jeez, doesn't that feel like that was so long ago now?
It does, and the thing is though is that like I think the way that you saw Alexander roll out, and then the way that they reacted and readjusted to it after Alexander 1 through 4, I think is a pretty prime example of Square Enix kind of overreacting to something. Now, in that case, it was good, like what they did.
Midas was way better.
Yeah, because Midas was better, and they started to improve the rating from that point on. But I think that it exposed a couple of pieces of flawed thinking in the way that they approached Heavensward. And I think that was far more widespread than any of us, even at the time, were imagining that it would be. The fact that the only new content that we got was relegated mostly to Palace of the Dead and Diadem. Obviously, Deep Dungeon did very, very well and was, ultimately well received by the community, and Diadem not so much.
No.
I think if that, what ends up, I think that's a problem. Like, what ends up happening when your content doesn't end up panning out? Because look at what Square Enix did. They overreacted, and in one case they were able to course correct, but in Diadem they haven't. Right? Like, I think Diadem is sort of like, you can see there the worst case scenario where they put something out that it didn't go very well. Instead of being able to expand it in a modular fashion moving forward, they reworked it, put it out again, still doesn't do it.
I think that's the question, is when you look at an event that fails, is it appropriate to try to fix it and go again, or is it or you just say, you know what, we thought people would like this, they didn't, let's move on to something else.
See, that's the thing is, like, if Diadem had done well and they were able to expand it in small modular ways in expansions and patches over time, what would they have been able to put the development effort into towards the end of patch 3.5? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's a really valid question to ask, because when something is getting development time, that means something else is not getting development time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it back to 11 just for a second, but think about Garrison. Garrison was objectively a failure of an event. No one did it at really any stage of FF11's development time. They didn't keep trying to make Garrison work. They moved on to something else.
Make
Yeah.
Garrison great again.
Yeah, right.
Well, but to be fair, too, there was a lot of, I think, positive reception to them trying something new with Diadem, right? And there were certain aspects of it.
In sentiment, yeah, like in abstract, before we actually got the event, I
Right.
think people were very supportive
Well,
of
even
it.
after it came out and people were like, this kind of sucks, there were still aspects of it that people liked. And I think that's what made Square Enix go, let's try this again.
Well, and
But then they still completely
they got into
Right.
a really tough spot, and I mean, we'll talk about this in a moment, but there was a long delay that Diadem underwent as it was being kind of fixed and perfected. So when it finally launched, we're like, well, you're taking a chance on this. You put a lot of time and effort into this. It needs to work.
Especially
and
when
they didn't
it's a
want to let it go
relaunch.
when it failed.
Just moving the lens a little bit away from the comparative 2.0 versus 3.0, do you guys think, like, the best accepted theory right now is that Eureka end up going to be fundamentally designed off of Diadem? Does Square Enix try to come up with something different now that Diadem 2.0 is not really that viable? Do they start, like, what do they do?
Okay,
If they are based off-
If they are basing it off of Diadem.
I think that if there's ways they can shift without having to, like, completely redo stuff from the ground up. All right, the two major flaws, as far as I'm aware, as far as Diadem go, that make it almost unplayable, is the fact that you go in there and you just have to sit there till you get what you want. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is that there's nothing else that comes from there. Like, you can go and do the fates, but there's no reason to do them. There's not even anything that's worthwhile from the spoils. So if we're going into Eureka and it's basically Diadem 2.0, so long as what we need isn't some fate or some emergency mission that happens randomly that we have no control over, then I think it's going to get its uses.
Okay.
I look at that. If they go into 4.0 and release another event based around fates in 4.0, I think you're going to have a lot of dissatisfied people.
I think, yeah, that's the thing, is that, you know,
Probably.
You can use Diadem as kind of like a model in the behind the concept of, like, once you've cleared it, you get to go to different sections of it to do other things. I think
Right.
that's cool. But if you build it around fates again,
Exactly.
no, you can't use fates again.
Yeah.
Because immediately, and people like us will be the first to do it, we're going to say, oh, good, more of the same.
right, exactly.
There will be no way you can spin
got-
another fates event.
It's got to be distinguished. So if that's what you're saying that there's no way that they could possibly pass off another reworked version of Diadem, for
Not if it
Eureka.
involves fates. Like, it can be Diadem-esque. Like, again, I think the idea of emergency missions is actually a decent idea. I think the idea of once you've cleared the main objective, you get to go to other parts and do extra stuff. I think that's cool. But yeah, it has to be something different than fates.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for the call, Alto. We appreciate it. If you want to call Limit Break Radio on Skype, 810-515-8715, limitbreakradio.com/Discord. We want to hear from you. What do you think? 2.0 versus 3.0? That's the subject of discussion here today. I want to talk about, we've covered some of the supporting cast of characters. I want to talk about some of the villains, because the villains, I think, in A Realm Reborn were so much better than they were in Heavensward. I was so underwhelmed by the idea of fighting Nidhogg. You're going up against a dragon horde. Okay, great. It feels like we've been fighting dragon hordes already for 2 expansions. So another expansion of dragons. Yay. Great. So there was mostly dragons that we were fighting in this one versus A Realm Reborn, which had a really, I think, incredible cast of antagonists.
Yeah.
Where, you had Nail. Nail was one of the big factors in FF14 A Realm Reborn. You had
Black Wolf.
Yeah, Lola Rito and everything that was going on over in Bastook.
Bastook? Oh.
Sorry. Wow.
Wow.
Jesus.
Let's be fair. It's the same place.
It is.
It's the exact same place.
Yeah.
Just throwback.
I think what you see in the difference between the villains in 2.0 and 3.0 is the difference between knowing who your villain is and the surprise reveal villain.
Yeah.
And in 2.0, you know who the bad guys are. You know Sasgravius and the Black Wolf. Why is his name slipping my mind?
Gaius?
Gaius and Belsa, thank you. Yeah, you know them throughout the entire story. You get to see them doing their thing and like kind of putting you into this corner and forcing your actions.
Right.
Whereas in 3.0, well, Thornton being the bad guy was, the surprise reveal kind of at the end. And it's just like,
We knew,
But we knew that.
all gonna murder
We-
that Pope.
Yeah, we knew that. We knew that as soon as you saw him with his big stupid hat that he was evil.
Right, we knew it,
Especially
but he can't
it was
show us that he's
it was
evil until then.
It was telegraphed even back into 2.0 because he had fucking what was it? Not Elidibus.
Ascian.
Yeah, the Ascian that was
yeah.
hanging out with him. So we knew that he was already compromised.
right, well, of course we know he's going to be the bad guy, but we're not seeing him do evil things because they have to make it seem like he's not the bad guy until
Exactly.
the reveal.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you're not building me up to want to kill this asshole.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there was a couple of key narrative points that were not very well executed with Heavensward.
After the scene in 2.0 where Ultima Weapon consumes Garuda and the other two primals, like I was kind
Right.
of like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Like when Alphino and you all go and convince the Eorzean Alliance to go to war with Gridania or with Garlemald and finally like take the fight to him, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go do this.
Right.
Whereas in 3.0, by the end of it, I'm like, all right, evil Pope,
Right.
let's kill evil Pope.
Right. Does it feel any different now coming to direct confrontation with Garlemald moving into Stormblood? Because
No.
I mean that's the thing is that I felt like I've been curious and interested in Garlemald now for like 2 expansions. And now that we're actually getting a little bit of payoff there, like I feel like they haven't done a good enough run up to it where I feel like properly hyped and ready for Garlemald or Xenos really.
Well, again, I'm gonna once again have to out myself as a Garlean sympathizer. When's the last time Garlemald did something bad to you as a person, as a player?
They said mean names to us up in the Sea of Sky.
It was Gaius. Gaius was the last one.
Yeah, it's been a long time since they've done anything objectively bad.
Yeah, and the ones
And
the-
recently they helped me.
yeah, that's the thing is that much more recently we seem to be
We're kind of
pretty
on the
chummy
same
with
side. We're
them.
like, hey, you know what? Warring Triad sucks. We should probably stop that.
like when did Final Fantasy 14 become Dragon Ball Z where all of the people that you defeat end up becoming your friends? When did that happen? Why is that happening?
Garleans are our Vegeta.
Just because they're friends now doesn't mean they're gonna stay friends, Escalia.
Not just-
So go ahead and take them as allies, and then when they start throwing you in cages and turning your skin into a suit, don't come crying to us.
Honestly, if we were building to a Sid double cross, I think that would maybe one of the most brilliant moves ever.
Who would ever see that coming?
That's the thing. No one.
Oh, The Cid is the betrayer? Whoa, what
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is this game?
Okay, but they better be able to like go back and like finagle something and be like, look, the hints were always there, or else I would call BS.
You
on that.
really need to do that's the thing is that if you've got a fully fleshed out narrative and you know exactly where you're going, that's the sort of narrative flair that you need to be putting into your games or your movies or whatever these days because people pick apart and dissect things on a level like never before.
Yeah, and stuff like that is so freaking cool.
Sid
when
was
that
Xenos all
happens.
along.
Come on.
No, but I liked our headcanon that we came up with last time, where the question of we had found out definitively that Yida isn't Yida, that's actually Lise, her sister, who assumed the identity of Yida around 6 years ago, which would have been around the time of the calamity.
Yeah, people I think were in the chat were saying that Yida in 1.0 was Lise, but any flashbacks of 1.0 would have been Yida.
Yida.
I want to know why. Like, I want to know the evidence that people are pointing to, because I mean,
does anyone have an official timeline of where she assumed the identity?
Yeah, because I mean, that's the question, is that there's this vague reference back to, it happened 6 years ago
during an operation.
Because as a warrior of light, I think it makes sense that it happened sometime after we teleported, because it's been 6 years, so we wouldn't necessarily have picked up on the fact that she acts differently.
Louisoix transported us 5 years, and then we don't know within the time bubble of the MMO world how much time has elapsed between A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, and the timeline of events as they take place. Mm-hmm. So it is entirely possible. I think that leaves the possibility open to Yida at some point in 1.0, as we knew her, may have been the original Yida. It may have been flashback. I don't know. I don't know exactly how this whole thing is panning out, but the headcanon that we had come up with, the theory that we had come up with, that Xenos is actually the original Yida, is one that I personally love. But the thing is if that's what it is, and we were able to call it,
before the expansion even hits.
Exactly. Like, if that's what it is, and we accidentally stumbled on it, and just blew it wide open, like, Square Enix, do they respond to that? Do they hold to what they've written?
We haven't been getting angry calls from Koji, so I don't know.
Not even that. Yoshi's like in his office, and like Koji busts in and like throws something down on his desk, and he's like, "Limit Break Radio called it," and Yoshi's just like, "God damn it!" and like throws his computer off of the desk and everything.
They undo months of work on cutscenes to change it.
You know that Hitler meme, right? Where he just like,
what?
He sends everybody out of the room, then just starts going crazy on like his,
the movie.
Yeah, the movie. They need that. Someone needs to make that meme.
Hey guys, you know that thing about Hitler? Wait, what? No. Record
got
scratch.
Your attention, didn't it?
No, I don't. What are you talking about?
The Hitler meme, yeah, where Yoshi is Hitler, and he found out that we uncovered their Yida is Xenos plotline.
But the thing is, though, is that like I had a real point that I was building to. Fucking tons of derails, you assholes. Yes, I do remember it, but if Square Enix is responding to player feedback on the level that they're adjusting their raids from one to the next to try to respond to feedback, are they doing the same on any kind of narrative level?
No.
You don't think that they're responding to sentiment, like maybe the Sultana may have been a different decision at one point?
Depends on how far in advance they write these narratives for
At this point, 4.0 has been completely written. I don't know if everything's been voiced or not, but like the whole script from 4.0 to 4.5, it's done.
Yeah, so they could possibly decide to change and edit things like pacing, but as far as like big plot lines go, if Xenos is Yida, that's it. She's Yida.
She's Yida at this point. There's no changing it.
Well, right. Yeah, no, I know that.
I think if SE was like responding on that level to like player feedback, I think the Sultana would still be dead, because that was a pretty, I think, well received move.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Scions, I don't know. I wouldn't say that too. I think people were like, there were a lot of people who were genuinely upset the Scions were killed, but the Sultana, I think most people were okay with. They like that move.
I have to wonder how much Square, because we do know that Square Enix is quite active on the forums, that they monitor a lot of player feedback, and that they've adjusted content to be able to try to meet those player expectations. And I have to wonder that if any story decision ever has ever been impacted by player sentiment or by feedback or response to a plot line.
I would
because
guess, yes.
I like honestly, I don't understand how you get a narrative that's as tight and focused from 2.0 to 2.5, and then you get one that's as unfocused and jumps all around as 3.0 to 3.5.
Especially considering
without changing some kind of staff element, without changing a writer in there, which we don't. I don't think we've been told about whether or not we have or not.
Okay, you know what? Actually, because I thought that 3.0 started out strong, right? But it's the way that it progressed that was terrible. And one of the sentiments, the critiques that we had of 2.0 was the way that even though we did like the narrative overall, we did critique a lot that, every once in a while it'd be like, all right, during this big giant thing that's happening, go do these little fetch quests for me.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that 3.0 did do was focus in on what was happening a lot more. It didn't really deviate a whole lot and make you feel like you were wasting your time.
Right.
But as a result, what we got was terrible pacing, where it seemed like each patch needed to focus on a specific thing.
Right.
So in that case, they still kept their overall narrative. Whatever was written for 3.0 was written, but the way that they presented it was maybe different.
Yeah, I'm actually going to cite the Scholasticate for whatever's written is written in stone bullshit, because it's not. Scholasticate, they had put that out and then they revisited three fucking patches later?
But
that was not according to plan,
but
and we know that for sure.
A side quest like that is
Yes.
less impactful of your overall story arc than the main story quest
I'm
is.
just saying, but look, if something as I would say, significant as a side quest could get adjusted, I think that there are narrative beats that could get adjusted as well. And if you don't think that Square Enix is adjusting for expectation, well, look at all of the evidence that proves otherwise.
Yeah, adjusted is one thing, but like rewriting?
Like changing plot points, that's something else. In an MSQ, in like a side story like Scholasticate or Hildebrand, then yes, definitely, I feel like they could probably change shit around.
If Yida is Xenos and they wanted to try and change or readjust something, what I think the play from there would be is to try and red herring the shit out of us.
I mean,
like straight up, give us here, look, you guys found proof that Yida's dead. You found proof that Xeno isn't Yida. And then at the end, once everyone's accepted, okay, yeah, guys, I guess Yida really is dead. Then
that.
pulling that
See,
card.
now I think that Square Enix was building to a double cross with the one chick that's in Good with Emmerich. Yeah, Lucia.
Oh, really?
And all they did was just in a piece of dialogue go, oh yeah, she's my sister. You know what I mean? That was really
that happened.
That was really the only reveal that we got around that. But do you realize how much there was a ton of setup there, and all literally they did was spin the camera at the right angle and was able to see the jewel, and then I feel like Square Enix felt like they needed to respond to that, and I'm just like, no, don't fucking do that to yourself.
They could still use that as a double cross, and it might even make more sense now going into Stormblood, because I always thought that there was something between Emmerich and her, right? Or she might at least have feelings for him, but now that he's been getting closer to Yugiri, she could feel jealous in some way, and that could push her towards a double cross.
That would be weak.
That'd be
If
see
this
that at
character betrays
So
Emmerich
dumb.
because he's got eyes for another girl, that is the worst
my
writing of
God.
a female character I've ever seen.
Seriously, yeah, you should go.
Now, if you want to write it as a double cross, you write it as, now that you're turning your attention towards war with Garlemald, now she's not so into fighting for
Okay,
But no, she totally renounced Garlemald in the whatever storyline.
Well, renouncing Garlemald, going to Ishgard, you are going to have to fight dragons, and that's what you signed up for. Now you're part of the Eorzean Alliance, and they're getting ready to go to war with Garlemald. Going to war with your former home is a lot different than saying, I'm not going there anymore.
Defending your new home against your former home is one thing. Waging war on them, that is a completely different thing.
Yeah, there could legitimately be a point where, the Eorzean Alliance does something terrible, and her conscience kicks in, and she, there's a double cross. Then I don't know, but I mean, I feel like that was a wasted, that was and the thing is that we only had that one screenshot of that one guy who spun his camera right and found it out. And it's like, dude, it felt like such a waste. Anyway, let's go.